So what we've done is the first stage of a statistical analysis. That is, we have plotted the data. We've seen what it looks like. You have, I've seen all of you have different files that you've been able to do, some of them quite interesting. This is a very simple one. And for this, what kind of statistical analysis do you think would be appropriate? Now that you've seen the plot, can you think of some statistical analysis that you would like to apply? I mean, you can always ask the AI, of course. You can say, what analysis should I apply to a time series data set? Why don't you do that? Tell me what the AI tells you. But see if you can think of it ahead of time. Ahead of time, what kinds of analysis would you do, even before asking the AI? Time series data. What do you think of when you hear the word time series? What do you think of when you when you're talking about trends of the data in terms of time? Prediction. So what kind of statistical tests? You can ask, is this variable growing or decreasing? Yeah. You can ask, is it periodic? Yeah. So these are the standard kinds of tests that you can ask. And now, if you ask the AI to give you examples, it'll give you very specific examples of things that you can ask for an analysis here. Anybody? What has the AI told you? Okay, so if I were to do this, I would have come up with these three things: trend, seasonality, by which I mean periodicity, and maybe residuals, whether there's various periods of noise. So this is not a terribly long time series, but we did a very interesting analysis in the course over a multi-year time series of stock market data. And it turned out that for the Indian data, there was a 5-year period. Why? Anybody? Any ideas why there would be a 5-year period for Indian data? I'll give you a hint. It was a 4-year period for US data. Huh? Elections. Elections have a big impact on the stock market. Okay? So these are the kinds of features you can pick out if you do an analysis. So how would you do such an analysis? So for this, first trend, how would you do a trend analysis on this? Anybody? What's the standard test for a trend? Say this is a rising trend. What would you apply? Come on, guys. Rising line. What do you think of? Okay, I think people need, I don't know, I thought tea and coffee was supposed to wake you up. What would you like to fit to this? Straight line, yeah? What analysis is that? Linear regression, okay. Tell it. You may not have such nice, you probably don't have a straight line. I saw many of you had a line with a big dip in it. What do you think would be appropriate for that? Hmm? Parabolic fit. Oh my. Was it stock market data or was it something else? Exponential. Okay, there are certain kinds of time series which are exponential. What, for example? Population growth can be exponential. Radiation can be exponentially declining. Yeah. So it helps a lot if you have a fundamental understanding of what is the process you're modeling. This is a very unusual graph for a company to have linear like increase with time. If you know any other such companies like this, tell me about it, huh? Yeah. Okay. So go ahead and tell the AI to do your favorite analysis on the time series you just plotted. Do that. I will do that too. Still thinking. There you go. Okay. So as I said, this is a very unusual stock price outcome, and it is astonishingly linear. Usually you won't find something like this. Have you been able to get more interesting fits to your data sets? Just a quick test. How many of you are using ChatGPT right now, and how many of you are using Gemini? ChatGPT? Okay, about 2/3. Gemini? Another 2/3. That's strange. Okay, it's probably more like 50-50. Okay, good. It's good to have to try out different AIs. They have their own strengths, and you can't assume that which AI is better today will be the same AI tomorrow. They keep coming up with different and improved models. Okay. It's like having a really bright graduate, really fast graduate student doing. You see it?
Do you think it's a local bandwidth limitation, or
no, it's some of it is their server limitation, and some of it is the bandwidth. But it's still pretty fast. It'll do it. Yep. Ah, now we've got a hallucination. I can't even read what it's saying. Of different cycles. Oh no, it isn't necessarily hallucination. It's talking about 120-day cycle, 62-day cycle, 41-day cycle, and so on. So this is a very odd way of plotting the frequency, I have to say. I would not have plotted it this way. But anyway, this is its frequency spectrum, kind of. I would have plotted it as a line, and I would have had a much cleaner time axis. And you can tell it to do that. Okay, so now one thing you will have noticed is that when it does this, I don't know about the ChatGPT version, but this is the Gemini version, allows you to switch between the code it generated and the actual graphical output. Okay, and this is very useful. In most cases, you will find that, especially if you're doing your own real analysis, you want to download the code and actually run it on your machine so that you can then tweak it, fine-tune it, run it for other files, that kind of thing. Yeah, it will do some amount of stuff online, but once you get to a certain level of complexity, you will find that it cannot handle it. Okay? So, has everybody been able to get some graphs and some analyses put in? Yeah? Excellent. So, you know, Suresh has very nicely put together a bunch of data sets in this directory. Particle diffusion, chaotic pendulum. This is just the time series ones. But there's distributions of different kinds. You can plot these, you can fit these. But I think we have a lot of ground to cover. And so I will fast forward at this point. Sorry, Suresh, I know you put in effort. But I think we should move on. You've gotten the sense that you can, so you all understand the flowchart, right? You take the file, you feed it to the AI, you ask it to plot it, and then based on your understanding of what the data should look like, what kind of model is appropriate, you select and say, okay, this is the analysis, fit it to this kind of curve, do this kind of comparison. And also you can ask the AI what might be possible analysis to apply, right? But just like if someone were to give you a bunch of random numbers and say, what kind of analysis should I do? You would struggle a bit. It really helps if you provide the AI with some context saying, this is a pendulum swinging, or this is the movement of planets, or something like that. Okay? It helps for you to give the AI something to work with. And of course, that means that you have to have your own physical understanding of what's going on. Okay. So as I said, we've spent a fair amount of time plotting it and doing different kinds of analysis, and you've gotten the code to do that. And as I said, we can do this for various other kinds of data and various other kinds of graphs, some of which you may not have even ever attempted on your own. Yeah? And it's really helpful to have the AI do this for you really quickly. It's something which I remember plotting data on graph paper. How many of you actually plotted data on graph paper in school? Oh, you still do that. Oh, thank goodness. I'm so glad to see that. I thought this was something like that is never used anymore. How many of you used log table books? Some of you still use that. I'm so gratified. Because yeah, I know. TAs do not have to look sorry about it. It happened to all of us. But this is probably, I'm surprised that it's still being done in schools. Okay, good. So let's move on now. Coding. So coding, you've already gotten a glimpse of it. Yeah? When it generated these graphs, the first thing it did was to generate the code to actually plot it. And almost always, almost all scientific first pass data analysis is done in Python. The graphing and analysis, just that the ecosystem in Python is really good. And Python is a really good language. Yeah? I know far more computer languages than I know human languages, I'm sorry to say. And Python is by far the nicest to work with. By far the worst to work with is not Fortran, it's C++. Yeah? And the more you know about C++, the more horrible it becomes. This is my personal view. Yeah? So Python is great, and that's what you will mostly be using. So if you don't know how to program in Python, you should know it. Do not assume that the AI is going to do that for you, because there's a very big difference between yourself understanding the logic of programming and you're telling the computer to do it. And the computer has limitations, the AI has limitations, and you will not be able to overcome those limitations if you do not know how to program yourself. So we're going to spend a little time on coding. And here we go. Yeah? So AI is extremely good at writing small programs, like the one that for doing the graph. These are small things. There's one very specific goal, one input, one output, job done. Any of you who has written a big program knows that you have to subdivide the program into different functions. If you run object-oriented programming, so you would have different classes for doing different kinds of things. This kind of stuff is something you have to think about, and it really helps if you do this and then tell the AI, use what I tell you, and it will do a much better job. Yeah? So complex programs, you have to do the subdivision. At this point, it's not really good for doing that kind of subdivision. You want to tell it which language and examples if possible, and specify the kinds of outputs you want. All of you who've done any kind of programming know that this is how you start. Now you just have to tell the AI and it will do a decent job of it. So let's do this. Tell the AI to generate a Fibonacci series. You all know what a Fibonacci series is, right? Tell it to do this. This is like a 5-line program. It'll do it for you almost instantly. And you can also get it to calculate pi to some number of decimal places. This is also a very short program. Well, that wasn't very helpful. It just gave me the answer. Okay? Let's see if it's got the code for it. Okay, so those are the 5 lines which is actually doing the stuff. The rest of it is all boilerplate. Okay, you could all do this? Or I should rephrase that, your AIs could all do this? Yes? How about pi? Did anybody get the value of pi as yet? Okay, it's using a different method from the one that I'm used to. But again, there it is. That's the actual place where it's happening. Okay, so this is the kind of stuff which AI finds really easy, probably because there's so many examples of just this kind of thing on the web. Okay, so you've all been able to do this? And I guess if I press the run button, it will run it and give me the answer. I don't know why it's taking so long to think about it. It's not a big calculation. Yeah, it's a bad series. Is it worse than the one where you just draw a box and then find which is within a circle? That's the one I'm used to. Yeah. This is a very bad one. Okay, well, there you go. Our experts are telling us that this is a bad way of doing it. Okay, so this was the easy stuff. Now let's do some more interesting ones. Yeah? So, how many of you have heard of the Lotka-Volterra model? Not really. Okay, so this is the classic thing in ecosystem dynamics. It's called the predator-prey model. And the idea is you have one species, let's call them the foxes, which is the predator, and you have another species called the rabbits, which is the prey. And each of them is multiplying at a rate determined by availability of food and by their growth rate. And so what happens is that there's a population boom among the rabbits because they're eating lots of food and making lots of baby rabbits. And then the foxes see that there's lots of food, so the foxes start to multiply. And then what happens to the rabbits? They decline because the foxes are eating them all. And now the foxes die off because they don't have any rabbits to eat. And then the cycle repeats. Okay, so this is a classic ecosystems dynamics simulation. Ask it to generate the code, as always, generate the code for the Lotka-Volterra model, run it and plot it. Though others of you could also try something out of my domain, which is to generate the code for the action potential as studied by Hodgkin and Huxley. Yeah? Run it and plot it. So these are scientific simulations. And they've all been, they were all the subject of research papers in their time. And the third one is planetary motion. And this is also very entertaining. You can tell it to generate the code. In fact, in the class we had it generate the code for plotting the orbits of the moon. The orbit of the Earth around the sun and the moon around the Earth at the same time, and drawing a graph of how this, and drawing an animation of this. Yeah? So these are all medium-sized simulations, and it can do all of these pretty well. Try it out. Try out one of them. Yeah? This is where the AIs are going to start to complain a little bit because you are asking them to do quite a bit. I'm sorry? Any questions? Just try these out. So, which one are you doing? You're doing planetary motion. Okay. Has it given you the code? It'll be 100 or so lines. It's not such a simple thing. Yes? It's working on it? Did you ask it to do the animation? Oops. Okay, it'll generate a static plot though. You ask it to do an animation, that's even more fun. So which one are you doing? Lotka-Volterra, cool. Has it run yet? Oh, how nice. How nice, how nice. Yes, it probably runs much faster if you run it independently on your machine, yeah? So you will find that usually the code will run much faster if you download it to your machine and run it there. Yeah? If you have the Python environment installed, that's really a nice way to do it. That looks like Lotka-Volterra to me. Is it? Very good, very good. And so you ran it locally or you ran it on the AI? Okay. Good, good. So you're going to run it locally or you're going to try and run it on Colab? It doesn't want to run it in the, oh yes, your free version may not have the canvas, right? Yeah, yeah. Oh, Lotka-Volterra, and I see a planetary motion there. But is it an animation or is it a static one?
It's a static.
Okay, so for animation, you almost certainly have to run it on your local machine. Yeah?
I'm doing it in Colab. The Colab AI is much better than the
Okay.
IIF.
Cool. How about you?
I'm using ChatGPT.
Using ChatGPT, so are you able to run it there or you?
No, it just gave me the code.
Okay.
I'm using Gemini.
Using Gemini? Oh, it's running.
Yeah.
How nice, how nice. Is it 3D or is it 2D? Can you tilt it? Yes, drag your mouse to change the camera angle. I think you need to use Shift and or something, or use two buttons. I mean, if you had a real mouse, you could do it with click and drag. Basically, you want to do a click and drag. No? Yeah. How about you? It's thinking very hard, yeah? Okay, cool. Excellent. Huh? So if you don't know, then what should you do? What do you think is your solution?
Copy paste this,
Feed it back, exactly. Feed it, let the AI do the hard work and debug it for you. Yes. Oh, you have a planet orbiting. Excellent. How about you? You have all the planets orbiting. Wow, very impressive. And you have it in 3D even. Can you make it rotate? Can you rotate the viewpoint? Press and drag. No? Okay. It looks very cool though. What did you get?
I am installing NumPy.
You're installing Python environment. Oh.
Python is installed, but I realized that for plotting you need NumPy, and that is not.
You need NumPy and you need Matplotlib. Yeah.
And it's showing an error because it's not installed.
Okay. Okay. So did you get some planets?
A comet.
Yeah. Oh, you got a comet even. Fantastic. Good, good, good. Okay, so how many of you came to the class thinking that you're going to be plotting planets going around the sun, huh? And you've just done it. Congratulations to all of you. Yeah? So you can all now join the astrophysics program here at ICTS.
No, this is pro.
Yeah?
So you use the flash.
Just like that, right? We plot the planetary motion. I mean, if you wanted to get really elaborate, you could next get it to plot how a supernova forms, but we won't go there. That gets to this level. Okay, so let me just give you some general programming tips, which is if you have a big project to do, you've seen it's really good at doing these small things. If you have a big project to do, as I said, modularize it. That is, write it in terms of classes and functions. You don't have to write it. You just have to frame it and say, I want a class to do this, I want a class to do that, and a class to do the other. Write the functions accordingly. Say how they should interact with each other. And the other important thing in a big project is you need to run it, debug it. If necessary, give the AI the error messages that your software generates and let it fix the problem. Yeah? But the most important thing in all of this is that you have to know what's going on. Yeah? If you don't know what's going on, if you aren't monitoring the AI, it will go off and do some completely random things, and it may never get the answer. For example, I mean, just the other day I had this marvelous interaction with the AI where there was a bug, and it hallucinated weirder and weirder things about what was going on. And it turned out that it was something completely unrelated to the ideas it was coming up with, and I had to look at the problem and solve it for it. Okay? So this is standard for major projects, and hopefully you will all get to be doing projects of this scale as you go along in your careers. Okay, so now you are all masters of the code, right? You can make the AI generate whatever you want. You should feel that you can. And this is Python, but it can do this for any language. For example, I've written a really complicated user interface in JavaScript, and I do not know how to program in JavaScript. Yeah? This is many thousands of lines long. It's of course very modular. I told it how to make the modules, but I do not know how to program in JavaScript, and it's done the whole thing for me. Okay, so you can do this, and this is one of the very powerful tools. As always, with AI, you have to know the big picture. You have to be in charge, because if you let it tell you what to do, then you're both going to go down the wrong track. All right, let's talk a little bit about scientific tools. So I'm not going to, actually, I'm moving much faster than I planned, so we can spend a lot more time after the class for you to play with it. I'm not going to talk about a huge number of things, and I'm sure there's a zillion astrophysics things which are now done by AI. This is just a small list of things that we played with in the AI course in NCBS, about which are almost all, as you can see, in the domain of biological simulations. So AlphaFold, how many of you have heard of AlphaFold? Okay, all of you should have heard about AlphaFold because they got the Nobel Prize for it. In fact, there were 2 Nobel Prizes awarded this year, or this past year, for AI-related stuff. There was one awarded to John Hopfield and Jeff Hinton for developing AI per se. And then there was an award that went to the DeepMind team who developed AlphaFold. Yeah? So it was John Jumper and was it Demis Hassabis or? Yeah, it's restricted to 3. So it is, I mean, they always leave out important people who contributed, but these people certainly did contribute. So actually, I was once taught by John Hopfield. This is my moment of fame. It was the very early days when I was a grad student. It was the early days of his Hopfield network. And I was in the first batch of the computational neuroscience program at Caltech when he was there. And so he taught about a little bit about his work. And I have to say I was not a very good student. I didn't pay very much attention, but I knew that, yeah, these things happen, and it's cool. Okay, so the point is AlphaFold is really important because it doesn't solve, but it takes you a long way to addressing the protein folding problem, which is how do you get the right protein shape given just the sequence of the protein. And this has been a field which has seen huge numbers of Nobel Prizes, in fact, over the years, because it's such an important problem in the life sciences. How do you get cells to work? A lot of it depends on the shape of proteins. So this has gone a long way to solving that. There's a lot of things that have come up in genetics to do with AI tools. For example, AI tools predicting what kinds of combinations of genes will interact with each other, how you get genetic networks of different kinds. There's a lot of stuff involving image analysis in cell biology. You can follow, in fact, you can follow multiple cells as they divide, track them. You've also actually seen an AI on your phone, which is the one that looks at faces and says, these are the faces in your image, right? So that's a very simple kind of AI operation. In neurobiology, there's a lot of things that we do. For example, one of the standard things we do is we take brain recordings and we feed it to a neural network and say, can you decode what kind of information was in this network? So for example, if the animal is doing a task where it has to distinguish one thing from another, can you just read the activity of the neurons and tell me from the brain activity what the animal was doing? And the neural network can often do this, okay? This is a standard thing. Deep Lab Cut is another very cool program which looks at images of animals, humans, insects walking, or not just walking, flying or jumping or grabbing prey, and can actually work out the full details of all of the joints and all of the movements. It takes a movie and it gives the full 3D kinematics of the object. Yeah? So these are things. Ecology, there's this really marvelous set of tools called Perch, and there's others also for marine ecosystems. This just looks at the sounds. So how many of you do bird watching? Good for you. Bird watching is awesome. How many of you who do bird watching can recognize the bird just from the call? Yeah? It's a bit harder, right? Perch can do this. Perch has a library, and you can extend the library saying, this is the call, this is the bird it belongs to, and from then on, it will recognize the bird from a recording that you make. And it can do this for birds, it can do this for insects, it can do this for marine animals, and as you can see, this is a really powerful ecological monitoring tool. Yeah, so my son, who is actually studying the effects of insects on crop production, he uses this kind of a tool for analyzing the presence of insects. Okay, and there's so many general things that you do with AI that I don't need to emphasize it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to fast forward right through to the legalities and ethics so that you can come back and spend more time maybe on the coding and analysis sections. Yeah? So and that I'll turn you over to the TAs at that point. But let me do that now. So this is this is a very pungent comment made by someone who's a long-term commentator on science and open access and other things like that, called Cory Doctorow. Yeah, and so this is his statement. Yeah, and I don't know if you have actually seen this evolution. This is all of us who have watched Google over the years have actually seen this happen. You will recognize it. Maybe you've only seen the latest phases of it, but first, this is how platforms die. First, they're good to their users. So when Google came out, it was miraculously good. You could find stuff on the internet which was almost impossible to do earlier. Then they abuse their users to make things better for the business customers. This is when they started to put in ads and the promoted links and all of that. Yeah. Then they abuse the business customers themselves, and that's the stage at which they are now. That is, they're making it harder and harder for the business customers to actually make money off them. They're trying to get all the money. And finally, they die. Yeah? And this is what happens pretty much to all platforms. Yeah? You've seen it, maybe you've seen it happen to, I don't know, Netflix or something, where you've discovered that not only are you paying for it, but you're actually paying to see the ads that they're putting on it. Yeah? So there's a saying that if you can't figure out, what is the business model, what is the product that you're supposed to be seeing on the internet, then you are the product. Yeah, that is that the ads that are being fed to you, you are the product for the companies to make their money off. Here's the thing I mentioned to you. AI models collapse when trained on recursively generated data. That is, if you provide an AI as its training set with the output of other AIs, it will collapse. Yeah? The models begin to lose diversity and accuracy, and they give increasingly erroneous and nonsensical answers. This is where things are now. Okay, so here is the basic issue, and I'm sort of ending with where I started in the class. All big AI models are trained on stolen data, violating copyright on the largest scale ever done. This is the biggest theft in human history. Everything, literature, science, coding, videos, music, everything, they've stolen it. They've gotten away with it. The largest traffic on the internet it used to be pornography. Those were the good old days. Now the largest traffic on the internet is bot traffic, and most of that is AI stealing everybody's data. Okay? That's the largest. So if you analyze the data coming to your site, even to ICTS, most of it will be AIs looking for material to train their data sets on. I think the senior people here are a little bit horrified at the thought, but that's the way it is. Okay? And think of this and contrast. We mentioned Sci-Hub earlier. Think of it, this is what the governments protect, because every government now thinks that AI is a strategic asset. And so India, China, the US, of course, they're treating the AIs as strategic things. They're promoting them, and so they're going to turn a blind eye to this. Okay. There was a book I read. Yeah, question. What do I mean by? That means that it violates intellectual property rights, both those written in law and those which were treated as sort of moral rights. So a lot of what they've taken is not publicly available. It is stolen data, as in it is books which have been pirated. But B, there's something called the doctrine of fair use, which says that basically that any creative content belongs to you. And there are certain categories of fair use, one of which is scientific research. Research in general is considered fair use. And large-scale data harvesting for someone else to make money off your work is not fair use. They are taking data without your permission, sometimes in violation of your permission. So I don't want to get too technical, but there is something called a robots.txt file in your internet, on your web servers. And that flag will say whether or not robots are allowed to read the content. And remarkably, until recently, Google used to honor that. That is, if you say no robots, then it will not read anything beyond that point. Bots have been shown to routinely disregard this. So this is a case where you've explicitly told them not to read the data, and they read it anyway. Yeah? And I think that, but I think more broadly speaking, there's all the legalities of what they've stolen, which is unquestionable. There's the moral thing, which is that they are taking data without permission, without attribution, and they're using it to make money. So all of those things are wrong. Without permission, without attribution, and making money. That's also illegal. There's no difference. You pinpointed it. It is spyware is illegal, so is all of what they're doing. It is spyware, yes, absolutely right. Yeah, it is reading data without your permission. Yeah, spyware is illegal. That's why I'm saying this is a violation of rights in many directions. One of which is it's taking stuff without your permission. That's theft. Okay. Other questions? Okay, so I'm ranting a little bit about this. Yeah, I feel quite strongly about it. But unfortunately, we are in a situation where countries think that AIs are important, and so they're going to turn a blind eye to this. Question? Yeah, that was utter theft. That is complete and utter theft. It's convenient for me to steal your car. Okay. Right, so that comes back to the other form of intellectual theft, which the big publishing companies have done, right? So they have taken the work of many people and made it impossible for other people to use it. Yeah. Textbooks are a difficult case because there the authors have actually put in work and do get some money for it. And I suspect that in almost all cases, the authors would rather have students get access than not. But the publishing companies don't work that way. So you end up with books that cost thousands and thousands of rupees, which are out the means of most people. And as I say, if I had a book which was commercially done in this manner, I would say make it available for free to people who need it. And then libraries and all can pay for it. And most authors would do this. Yeah. So I personally, if I'm talking about, to me, that falls under the category of what I would call fair use. That is, you are using it for academic purposes, which historically has always been considered fair use. Yeah. So I'm not telling you to go out and do large-scale pirating, but on the scale of things, that to me falls on the fair use side of things. Question? No? Oh, you had your hand up. That's why I thought, yes, you. Okay, shall we move on? Okay, so nowadays, if you ask an AI to look at something that is copyrighted, it'll give you a difficult time. In fact, just about, I think this was the course I did 2 years ago, when they were just starting to crack down on the AI companies. So now what's happening is that the big publishing houses who have stolen a lot of our intellectual ideas are fighting with the AI companies who are stealing their stuff. So they don't want to be, they don't want what they stole to be stolen from them, if you get the picture. And it's now third generation that now the AI company, anyway, you get the idea. The AI companies don't want to steal what they've stolen from. So it's multiple levels of theft. But I tried to get the AI to do a critique of, to do a translation of the Indian national anthem. And said, no, I can't do this because this is copyrighted. Okay. All right, so This is a little exercise that you can try now. See if you can get the AI to get you copyrighted material. Yeah, I'm telling the class to do large-scale penetration testing, let's call it that. That's the word given to when you ask, when you see if you can break through somebody's defenses on something, security defenses. So what kinds of things can you think of to do which would be a violation of copyright? Any suggestions? What would you like to do to test this? Get a chapter of a book, yeah? Or get a link to a video of a movie that is yet to come out of theater, yeah? A song, these are all violations of copyright, yeah? See if the AI will help you on this. And it will say, you are being very naughty. No, but I said this was 2 years ago. Now you can do it. Now you can do it. So now you can get Jana Gana Mana, no problem. And it will translate it for you. Yeah, it complains, right? So basically their lawyers are fighting the other people's lawyers. And so and the end result is that now you have multiple barriers to your getting stuff which was written by, anyway, never mind. At least the authors of books and music and all should get some money. Most of it ends up in the hands of the big publishing companies anyway. Okay, yeah.
So as I said, a follow-up on this question. So I totally understand why Sci-Hub gets away with it. However, when an author submits their paper to a journal, aren't they just giving that license to the journal?
That's because they have no choice in the matter. If I want to publish in a nature journal, I have to hand over the copyright. And unfortunately, the whole academic reward structure is built around publishing. And the publishing houses know this. So if you want to get a promotion, if you want to get a grant, you have to have a publication. And if you want a publication, you have to hand over your rights. So the whole system is very deeply entrenched.
So how does Sci-Hub gets away with it? Whereas
it gets away, it's illegal. It doesn't get away with it. They've been after what's her name? I've forgotten her name. Alexandra Albakian. So she's been hounded. You know, if she were to go to Western Europe or the US, she'd be arrested. Her publications have been blocked. Her websites have been blocked multiple times. I don't think she's been able to refresh them for a while. Okay, so they're after her, and they're after her in a much more vicious way. They're not after Sam Altman. Altman ought to be in jail for, I don't know, till the end of the universe, till the heat death of the universe, but he's not going to be in jail. But he's done much worse than them.
I mean, we still don't take preprint servers to that credibility.
Yeah. The whole thing is stacked, yeah. Anyway, we've ended up talking a lot about copyright, which is not necessarily directly to do with AI, but it's related in the evil part of it. Okay, so the things are, creators are now starting to push back a little bit, artists, writers and all, but it's possible, for example, you tell an AI, in fact, we did this in the class, we told the AI to generate music, we told it to generate entire songs with lyrics in different styles. How many of you tried to do this? What was the website, Suresh? For generating songs. Anyway, ask the AI which website, anyway, you know the routine by now, yeah? But there's a AI website which will generate you a song in whatever style you like. It will even generate lyrics, and this actually produces quite catchy songs. Yeah, you don't have to listen to humans anymore, except secondhand, so to speak, digested by the AI. right? So these are, and you cannot tell the difference anymore. These were quite danceable tunes, at least some of them. Yeah, and the net result of this is, again, a global scale, as I said, vanillaization. Everything sort of gets homogenized to the statistical mean of all of the top chart toppers, all of the most generic kind of stuff that people like because they like it. And all the really innovative, edgy stuff will be stuff you'll have to look up the back catalogs for. I don't know. Is there any good innovative music out these days? Come on, all you music critics. Are there any bands which are producing really edgy? I'm sure there must be, right? Indie bands are producing some good stuff. Anyway, this is what's happening. So you guys are the consumers of all of this. You have to decide whether you want to listen to the AI. Okay, so I'm going to summarize now. There are many, many positive uses. Yeah, we've gone over a lot of good things that AI can do for you. I hope you've gotten a sense of how much faster you can do certain things, especially in the scientific visualization, analysis, code generation domains. Those are fantastic. There are amazing tools out there for doing specific things like AlphaFold and so on. Yeah? In physics, I know that there's this recent amazing AI tool which can do atmospheric simulations as accurately as these gigantic supercomputers, and it can run on a PC, right? It can do it, it needs all the data, it needs all the weather station data, same as the big simulations do, but it can do the whole thing on an AI, on a large, not a simple PC, a workstation class PC, right? So this is amazing. There are AIs that can, yeah, they can do all sorts of things. It's fantastic. You can do a lot of, those of you who, most of us here are not native English speakers. It's fantastic for improving our writing skills. It'll give you critiques. It'll help you with your grammar. It'll help you with the construction, but you must not let it become a crutch. You are the ones who have to learn how to do this yourself and write things in an original way. Research assistance, sure. It will give you critiques, will also include scientific points if necessary. Yeah? It'll give you suggestions. You can ask it for suggestions on what else could I try. Of course, if you let yourself be limited by it, then that's your mistake. Writing grants and term papers. This is actually a really scary thing because if you write a term paper using an AI, are you cheating? You're cheating. And who are you cheating the most? You're cheating yourself. Good. I won't emphasize that. You understand what you're losing out in doing such a thing. In reviewing papers, that's kind of a mixed bag, right? When I read a paper, I have critiques. I may not see all the flaws in the paper, but they expect people to review it as a human being. Coding is really coming through very well. As I said, the level of being able to do simulations has gone up dramatically in the past few years. Almost all of you were, not all of you, but many people tried and succeeded in getting planetary simulations to work. First year, this didn't work at all. It took me many attempts to get something that looked vaguely like a planetary simulation, and it wasn't as nicely done as what you saw. And you just told it and it did it. Okay, so it's coming very well. Figure generation is much better than it used to be. Used to really have to fight with it. Now it did it in almost everybody's case just right away. But there are also very bad things that happen with AI. For example, there's a whole category now in Retraction Watch, which is a web publication which reports scientific fraud. And what Retraction Watch has a whole section now on AI-generated fraud. And for example, this is a cut and paste from a paper. This is the standard line of introduction that the AI puts out when generating text. Yes? And they put it in their paper. Yeah? Right? And there are many of these. For example, the key, there's a key, or at least there used to be a button where you press, which is called regenerate response for giving you a fresh response. Many papers had that as the first few words in their text. Yeah? Or you had, someone actually had this whole thing as an AI language model, I, and then it went down and it's found it in 9 papers. Okay, so this is all, this is all the kind of things that happen when someone is not just fraudulent, but also stupid about it. Yeah, it's a second order kind of idiocy. So what's the end game of this, right? The AI will probably at some point, they keep getting better, it'll probably be able to write, at least at face value, a better paper than you can. Is that the end game? Is that up for, is that the end of your career? Is the end of human science? No, I'm glad you all think so. So then you have to remember what will keep you ahead of the game. Okay? So there are many abuses, this being one of the big one, but propagating error is a big one. This is a huge one, forgetting how to think. Yeah? And this is the line I say, if you use AI to do everything, then everything you do can be done by AI. If you rely on it too much, then you're putting yourself out of a job. You're putting yourself out of a career. Yeah? Because it's cheaper to just have the machine do it. Okay, so I'll end with this thought. Yeah, this is the current model. This is actually an old picture. These AI data centers now occupy acres and acres of land, and they need nuclear power stations to run them. The ChatGPT-4 has, they have not told us publicly, but people have estimated it has 1.8 trillion parameters. That's a big number. Yeah? And it takes that much to run it. The brain is this big. It takes 20 watts, and it's got 3 into 10 to the power of 14 synapses. That's the number of parameters effectively in your brain. It's got a lot more, but that's a sort of minimum, absolute basal minimum of what is there in your brain. So I'll leave you with this thought. Yeah? And thank you very much. Okay, any questions? Okay, so you still have quite a bit of time before lunch, and what I urge you to do is to work with the TAs and stretch your muscles, stretch your AI coding muscles, stretch your AI graphing and analysis muscles. There are the distributions, there are the various data sets that we provided. There's the various exercises that you've just begun to play with. And I urge you to get deeper into these. If I were an AI, I would say delve deeper into these, but I'm not. So, but this is what I would like you to do in the remaining section here. I understand that this section in any case is normally used for such exercises. And yeah, you should become absolute experts at making the AI do what you want it to do, and not the other way around. Have fun.
Professor Bhalla began his lecture before I introduced him, and I'm going to thank him before he finishes.
I'm around, so you can.
No, you're done, but I'm sure people will have things to ask you. Right? So let's thank you first of all. I also have a suggestion for the different groups. Each of you can decide whether you want to do that. As I said, this is at least for the older people here. Even for the people who have played with AI, a bigger picture, right? And in each group, you know, some people might be able to run things, some people might have brought a computer, so on. So before it all slips away, maybe this post-dinner session, we leave it to each group, whether you want to assemble and consolidate the knowledge, and the presentation, I understand, will be up at that same link.
I'll put it there right now.
Put it there, so you can, you know, if you want to, go over the lecture, try some of the things in a more leisurely fashion. You're welcome.
You're encouraged.
Just discuss it in each group.
Suresh, I want to upload my talk to this directory. I should have access. Let me just refresh. No. I'll send it to you, and if you can upload it, please. Yeah. This one is, I'll just send it to you and. Okay, I sent it to you. Yeah, so we didn't get to play with all of the distributions and similar analyses. It's well worth getting familiar with that. These are standard things that you will do in your courses and in your careers in due course. You uploaded it? Okay, so the lecture has also been uploaded to the same website.